I'm visiting in the home of Mr. George Avgerakis. Mr. Avgerakis came to the United States in 1913 at the age of 16 years old. He was born in 1898. Mr. Avgerakis, where were you born?
I born in a little village, they call it Exasteror, 20 miles outside Constantinople. And I had a mother, she was widow for a year, I was orphaned, and in 1913 there was the Balkan War, and I was only 16 years old, and they tried to draft me in the army. And being that I know that they're going to get us, the mayor of our town, he told us to have our birth certificate with us so we can prove we really are 16, not 21, the way they are supposed to go in Turkish army. So one day I was standing on one street in my little town, and I see a cop. He came over and grabbed me by the neck and took me to a coffee house. And I see there was another 50 boys all my age, all 16 and under. So at the same time, my mother found out. Then they got me. And I see my mother came in the coffee house. She was crying. So the tour captain asked the mayor of the town, he says, who she is? So they told him that I was her son. Well, why she's crying? She's crying because her boy is only 16. So the Turk told the mayor, he says, call up who is this name. So the mayor says, George, get up. So I got up. So the Turk captain says, sit down, you are in army. So I says, I have my birth certificate, I'm only 16. He says, never mind, you sit down, you're in the army. All right. Then they told one of the guards there, the captain says, get this woman out of the coffee house. So they chased my wife out of the coffee house, and I wouldn't sit on one side. And this coffee house was a narrow and long, and had two doors, one in the front and one on the back. The one door on the front was guarded by two policemen. On the back, there was nobody. So then it was September, it was kind of drizzly outside, and it was getting dark. So the captain, he told the mayor, he says, tell all the people here to notify their parents to bring something for underwear or piece of bread or something, because we have to walk all night to go to Constantinople, walk into Constantinople. So right back of this coffee house was the house of my grandmother's. So they notified my grandmother, and she brought me a little valise, not valise, a little towel, and had a piece of bread, a little cheese and everything. She hugged me and she kissed me, and she looked around and says, there is no Turk around here, why don't you quit? So that's all I want. So I showed her, there was nobody, and she told me where to go. So I went to a house, there was only girls, because they was going and break the doors and watch for the house who had boys, men. This house had only 3 girls. So I went there, and the girls were surprised. So I told them to stay there, and around 5 o'clock, the captain gave order to start walking, all the boys. So they called the names. Everyone get out of the coffee house, and they called the names, and my name was missing. So, no, I was missing. So he says, go out and search, find him. So then started blow the whistle all over in the town looking for me. Well, I was hide on this house. So they couldn't wait for me. They went to Constantinople. So next day, the local, because we had local cops in there, so they were looking for me all over. They couldn't get me. And I had, my grandfather had a nephew. He was a captain, sailboat. We had 10 sailboats. They sailed from our little village to Constantinople every day, bring grapes to Constantinople every day, grapes, vegetables, everything. So the only way for me to go, because they was watching the sailboat, you can't get in because they're watching. They're watching to get the boys. Maybe they know that we was quitting through, because otherwise all the doors, the road, they was blocked. So anyway, they hide me in the sail. Next day, it takes 9 hours to go to Constantinople sailboat. Yeah, Kib, you know who Patriarch is? Our religious leader. Kib, you know who Patriarch is? Our religious leader. They fix up with the Russian embassy. They fix up with the Russian embassy so we can help us, the boys, to protect us, the boys under the army age. So one of these Russian representatives, there was a pier. There was all the sailboats parked there, So this Russian embassy man came up there and asked the captain of the boat. His name was Daniel. He said, Daniel, I said, you got any boys with you? He said, yes, I got one. So I got out. I said, don't be scared. I was scared, you know. He said, don't be scared. You are a Russian protection. You know, Russia embassy and patriarch, they come to some kind of understanding with Turkish government so they can let us leave the Turkey. You know what I mean? So he said, get in line. There was about 100 children in my age.
All Greeks.
All Greeks, yes, all Greeks. They got us, so they had 4 buses. They put us on the buses. And in Constantinople, I don't know, in 1884 or something, there was a war between Turkey and Russia. And Russians, they reached outside Constantinople, and when they signed an agreement, the Russians, they built a monastery. They call it San Stefan. And that monastery was still there now, I think. Well, they took us over to that monastery. They had beds, they had the kitchen ready for us. And they said, we'll keep you here, you'll stay here, you eat here, sleep here, till we have a boat from Russia or Romania. Then we'll put you in the boat and you go to Greece. And sure thing, after a week, there was with Russian flag, Russia. With Russian flag, they took us, they put us in, as I said before, there was 2 guards, they watching all the people who used to go on the boat. But us, it was all fixed up, you know what I mean? So they let us go in there, and day or 2, I don't know how long it took us. From Constantinople, I went to Piraeus, Greece. That's the big port of Greece. And I stayed there 3 days. And in the boat, I met 4 other boys from my village, but they was grown up. They were 35. They was going to America. So I met them in the boat, and one of them was my godfather. So we stay in Piraeus 2 days, and then the boat that we had to get to come to America was in Patras. That's another port. They call it Patras.
When did you decide you wanted to go to America?
Well, there was only, I had the ticket. The Russian embassy and Patras, they had my tickets already. Everything was paid by them.
In other words, the Russians were going to send you to America?
Russian patriarch. So they bought the ticket, everything was ready. We stayed in Patras for a week, I think, and then the boat came from America to Patras, and then it was going back. The name of the boat was Martha Washington, Austro-American Line.
So did you have any choice? Is that what happened to all the boys who they sent them all to America?
No. A few of the boys we came to America. The rest of us, they stayed in Greece. But myself and a few other boys, we got tickets for New York.
Why did you decide to go to New York?
Because they advised me to go to Greece. Poor Greece, I had no future. They said, you better go to New York, which those days, like today, we know it was the richest country in the world, more chances, more future you have, and I was only 16. That's why I decided to come to America. So
you never did you get a chance? Did your mother know that you were going to America?
Oh, yes.
How did she know?
Well, they notified because they know that I was hiding in the town for 3-4 days, and it was all fixed up. That I had a few dollars. My mother she had nothing, but my grandmother had a few dollars, so that they gave her the whole thing, and they told me, you better go to America because you had a future. That you are a young boy. It's better to go to America instead of go to Greece.
What happened to the boys that fought for the Turks who went into the army?
None of them come back. All got killed, died. I came to America October 23rd, 1913.
What was the trip like?
What do you mean, the trip?
The boat trip.
Storm, the weather? Oh, I was sick all the way. First time I get in the boat. All my life, I don't know anything about sailing distance like that. I got sick. And anyway, when we come to the New York, we only know one boy. I don't know his name. And we, as I told before, we meet four people from the village that I come, but they was in the army. They was drafted. and one of them my godfather. So we all went to his address in downtown New York. Barrett, they call it Battery, or Barrett. There was a Greek restaurant they call it Athens, and there was an interpreter because we don't know the English language, so they give us interpreter, and he's speaking 12 languages, and he was Italian, really Italian, but he was speaking many languages. So he says, "Where do you want to go?" We had the address. That's all. First we went to Castigar, we used to call it, the Ellis Island. And the only thing they examined was the ice. They said, "Yes, all right, go ahead."
Okay. Now you say you went to Castle Garden. I think you went to Ellis Island because
Ellis Island.
you went, but you call it Castle Garden, right?
Garden.
Because
Well,
everybody thought.
That's right. That was the Ellis
What
Island.
do you remember about it?
That was the Ellis. But those days we used to call it Castigar. Now they call it the Ellis Island. Well, anyway.
What happened there?
Nothing. They just examine our eyes. That's all. And then they say, "How much money you got?" I don't know. I had $4 or $5. I don't know. That's all. He says, "Now you go." Now they had an interpreter. And they asked, "Where are you going?" Now 5 of us, we went one address. Downtown somewhere. Barrett, I don't know. Well, they took us to this restaurant. They call it Athens restaurant. And really, I find the friend we was looking for. So when he saw us, he was surprised. Now he says, "Where are you people going?" He says, "We're coming to you." He says, "What I'm going to do?" Well, we beg him, we have another place. Your father give us your address. And that's really, his father gave us the address. And that's all you need, address and your eyes. If you was all right, you go in the America. Otherwise, they send you back. And he took us to his apartment. Poor guy. He was labor. He was very weak and sick. And he used to sell cigarettes from a coffee house to a coffee house, from a store to a store to make his living. So we wasn't expecting any financial help from him. But at least he gave us a room to sleep. He had one bed with mattress. The rest of it, there was nothing but newspapers and all that. So we stayed there 2 or 3 days.
How did New York look to you when you first came?
I was surprised to see it like that because I brought up in a small village. I don't know much about big buildings like that. And we were scared, no money. We didn't know anybody. You know how it is, only 16-year-old. First time I get out of my home. And he had no room the first, and he says, 3 people, you're going to stay here with me, and 2, we go on 42nd Street and 6th Avenue. There was a coffee house, and he knew it was a friend of his. He says, "I'll try to take you down there, and you can sleep on. He has a room for you people. We'll try to get a room for you anyway." Sure, the 3 of them, one of the 3 hours, we stayed with his friend's apartment. And the last 2, one his name was Jimmy, and the other was Demetrios, and the other name is Christodoulos. So he talked to the man. His name was Kyriakos. So he said, "What are we going to do? You have to find a place to sleep for these boys. They just come from the other side. They got no money. They got nothing." He says, "Well," he says, "all right. I got a room." So we went upstairs. He gave him a room. And they sleep in that room that night. Next morning, this friend that I stayed on his apartment said, "George, you are the youngest. You better get out and go down the coffee house," because the coffee house is a couple blocks from the apartment that we stayed, and see how Demetrius and Christodoulos is doing. So I went down there and I asked Mr. Kyriakos. They didn't get up yet. I says, "How was Christodoulos?" And Demetrius says, "I don't know." He says, "You better go up and see." There was a door closed. You have to get it on the door and go upstairs from the coffee house to the apartment upstairs. So when I opened the door, I smelled something bad. So I ran back in the coffee house. I says, "Theo Kyriakos says, it smells something bad." And right away, he noticed there was something wrong. So, whoa, there was a gas. What was it? Those days, there was no electricity in every house. There was this gas they have. And they have light by gas. So when time come to sleep, they was talking to these friends. When the time come to sleep, in the old country, we had lantern, kerosene lamps. You put the light out. So they thought that they can do the same thing with the gas. So when the time come to sleep, so Christodoulos told Demetrius, he says, "Blow the light out." So he went up, he blew out and the light went out. But the gas was coming all night. middle of the night, they got sick. They're vomiting, but they use their head. They open the window, and they put their heads in the window. And right away, when we went up with Mr. Kyriakos, we find them, their heads in the window. We drag him out. He called help from the coffeehouse. We got him out and started giving them black coffee. Right away, he gave them black coffee, and we call a doctor. The doctor come in there, and they come all right. Can I stop for a minute? I'm tired.
You could talk slower.
Well, they had friends in Provo, Utah, these three, and they came to go west. I come to stay to New York because I got younger and I can get better job and I have more future in big cities. Anyway, so we wrote a letter. They wrote a letter to their friend in Provo, Utah, asked him to send them the ticket because we only had enough money to reach New York. So sure thing, in 3-4 days, I don't remember how many days, their friends sent them the ticket, 3 tickets from Provo, Utah, from New York to Provo, Utah. So in a week time, they left, and I stayed all by myself with this friend of mine. And every morning, I used to go to the coffee house, and this fellow who had the coffee house, he treated me coffee, sandwich sometime, and he says, don't worry, I was crying all by myself, you know. He said, don't cry. He says, we'll find a job. I had no money. I had nothing. So finally, one morning, I was sitting on the corner, and I see a gentleman walk in. His name was John. So Kyriakos called. He says, hey, John, I got a young fella here for you. He says, what do you mean? Well, he says, I have a young fella just come from the other side. How about you give him a job? He was steward in dishwashers on Buckingham Hotel, 5th Avenue and 5th Street. 5th Street. He was a steward. He would take care of the dishwashers, the silvermen, and all the kitchen. He says, you got a job for the young fella? So he says, not now, he says, but I'll help him. So soon, next thing he comes and says, George, come over here. So I got a job for you. I went down there. He took him down the cellar. You know, the kitchen's always down the basement anyway. Big hotel on 5th Street. So I went down there and he showed me how to use the machines to wash dishwashing machine those days was different what it is today. Anyway, I worked there 4 months and I got some money, but I didn't like too much indoor, and I used to an outdoor life. And my godfather used to ride me from California, from Provo, Utah. They went to Provo, Utah, and then they went to California working for the Western Pacific Company, Railroad. And keep on writing me a letter, says, you better come with us. We live like we used to live in country and all that, and all by myself there. I says, I'm going to meet my grandfather, my godfather and all that. So I got $54 because that was the ticket those days. I got my ticket, and 4 days I went to Salt Lake City. I had an address. They gave me an address.
How did you get to Salt Lake City?
By train. So I got the Pennsylvania Railroad from New York to Chicago. From Chicago, I transferred to another train, and through Union Pacific or something, I went to Salt Lake City with Denver, Rio Grande. I went to Salt Lake City.
With what?
Denver, Rio Grande Railroad Company. Denver, Rio Grande Railroad Company. I remember the name. And they sent me an address. There was 2 brothers, Papadopoulos. They had a grocery store. I have to go to him. I went over there. He didn't know me. I didn't know them. Well, he says, my boy says, I know these 2 friends they had. The other boys, they had 2 friends. Well, I was going to them. So I went to Papadopoulos and I told him I want to go to this address. They was in Provo. It's only a little town outside Salt Lake City, about 10 miles outside Salt Lake City. Well, says, I know this gentleman. They're 2 brothers. Says, I have to call him up to come over and get you. Well, I stayed. In the afternoon, they came. They took me to Provo. They took care of me They feed me.
Did they have a telephone? Did he have a telephone he could call?
They did. Yes, they did. They did. And then I stayed for them a week. And then after a week, I want to go and meet my godfather.
What was Utah or Provo, Utah like in those days?
Provo, Utah, a small farm town. There's too many vegetable farms around there. And there was a smelter there, and they was working in the smelter, these two brothers. But most of it is farms down there.
Were there many Greeks?
No, not many in Provo, no. And then in a couple of days, there was a man there, but his name, Louis Clearis. This gentleman, he had an agency, employment agency, and he used to send all the Greeks to Western Pacific Railroad. You don't have to pay. The ticket was paid by the railroad. There was no ticket. You didn't pay a ticket anyway. So in 3 or 4 days, he got the ticket, and they sent me there was a gang. There was about 40, 50 people that was working in the Western Pacific. They changed rail, they changed ties, Those days was different. Now they're doing everything by machine, but those days was by hand. And there was extra gang every summer. All these railroad companies, they had extra gang to replace the old tires or ties and all that. So that's what they've been doing. And not only that, but this guy, Skleris, he had understanding with the company that all the groceries and bread, he had to supply all these gangs from his He had his own bakery, he had his own grocery, and all these gangs in Nevada, in California, had to supply those things from him, from Salt Lake City. And that day, they're going to ship food and bread and everything to these gangs around there, and I had to go with this train. And I did. So around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, while the train was going, the train all of a sudden stopped. And I was, of course, sleeping. It says, wake me up. Says, get off. I got out, and I got, all by myself. They unload the packages ahead, the boxes, food, groceries, whatever, bread, whatever we had, and the train left.
Did you speak English by this time?
No, a little bit. I understood a little bit, yes. Well, the place where I was working, Balkan Hotel, all Greeks, waiters and dishwashers and servants, there was all Greeks. But I understood. Then I see all over, it was dark. Nobody was there. I don't know what to do. A little distance, I see a little light. Well, I says, I walk to the light to see, what is it? So I went there, and what was it? It was a tool room. All these workers, they used to put, they have these hand cars years ago, how the workers, they used to work in railroad. Now we have motors, but those days you used to do by hand. And they had all of them that was there, and they had their tools, and it was a little light. So I sit down. So they had a wheelbar. I sit down in the wheelbar, and daybreak, I got out, and about half a mile away, I see boxcars. And that's where they worked, they used to sleep, boxcars. So I see a man jump from the boxcar, and he happened to be one of my countrymen, one that I know. Well, they call up the rest of it. My godfather got out, and they got me in. They cooked breakfast, everything else. And the same day, they give me a job, a water boy. Same day, they give me a bucket. And one of those, you give me water. And we have bottles, water on the flat cars, There was isolated, there was wood, there was nothing, no city, no water, nothing. But they have water, their own water in bottles. And I used to go fill the bucket with that bottles, and I used to give the workers. And I worked there for about all summer, I think. And when the weather started getting cold, well, the company stops these extra gangs. And I went back to Salt Lake City.
On the railroads, who worked on the railroads? Where did they come from? What countries?
Who?
The railroad. People working on the railroad.
From different countries. Hungarians, Austrians, Albanians, Turks, from all countries. You know, those days they used to come, the doors open free for the States. You can go in the States anytime you want, as long as you had a ticket and you was in good health. It's not like today you have to go through examinations and those like things. So there was workers from all over the country. And I went to Salt Lake City and I find a Greek family. And I went to there was a gentleman had a coffee house, and I went to coffee house. And he had his family was living back of the coffee house, and they had a couple of rooms upstairs. And his name was Andrew. And I told my story, who I am and all that. Well, he says, I think I have a room for you, he says. And he says, all right. He gave me a room, a bed, everything else. I had a few dollars because I worked for 5 months. And he had his father-in-law had a restaurant on the back there. And he gave me a job on the restaurant. And I was working there for summer, till summer comes. But I couldn't get, he wasn't paying me much, so I was looking to get something else. So, in the coffee house, my other 3 countrymen, we always talking about something. We find out that if I can get a better job, we make a few dollars more. That's what we came here for, make a few dollars more. So I went to Ogden, Utah. There was more jobs in Ogden, Utah, and there was more employee agencies. You get a job through the office. So I went there, and I found a job in Evanston, Wyoming. There was a big tunnel. I used to repair the tunnel. It's in Evanston. It's about 7 miles. They was repairing that tunnel. So I went there and got a job.
Tell me something. Throughout all this, were you happy? How did you feel?
I was happy. Well, I was happy, yes. Well, how you expect to be very happy? The surrounding, I don't know anybody. Well, anyway, I went there and I got a job. What I was doing, I don't know how to explain to you. There was a car like funnel. You know, there was making the cement right in the tunnel. There was one car had sand, and the other car had stone, and there was accelerator on the bottom of this box. And there was an open hole like this, and how they call it. Then come later they call it how they call it. It used to come take the sand and the stone and through another box, so they mixed up and make the cement out of it. And there was extra trike when all those box cars, flat cars, there was about 100 people who was working there. We had our own train. He used to bring all the equipment, all the cement, everything else. And if a train, it was a single line. And if a train had to go through there, the Union Pacific train, they have to pull us out. You know what I mean? Because those days, the trains used to go by coal. And the train comes up with the coal and that smoke. All the people in there working, they get sick. So they pull us out, and the train goes by, and wait another half hour. They had big fans, pull all this gas smell out, and then they pull us in. So one day, while I was working, then I was lower down, and I was pulling a lever and let the door open, and the belt on there used to go take the sand and the gravel. So one day, there was another friend of mine, train going by, and then it was kind of quiet. So I called up to my friend Theophilus, was his name. I said, Theophilus, what's going on? What's going on? He says, I don't know. Everybody's stopping. So anyway, we see it complete. Nobody was working. So we got out. We see on the flat cars, all the workers, they fell asleep. The train went by, and the fireman, he make a mistake, and he put coal, fresh coal. There was orders by Green River, but 10 miles before you reach the Evanston is a town, they call it Green River. And as soon as they reach the river, they should put in the Aveston, the engine. Because by reaching the Aveston, they will have the smoke. And it will happen what happened. But this fireman, he make a mistake, and he put a call, and by the time he reached the Aveston, they didn't give enough time to pull the smell out. We got in, and everybody got sick. And we was lucky. A train come, express train come up, and they stopped it. There was a little village, all by Germans, all Germans. A little village, about 50 houses were there. And they stopped the train and called if there is any doctors in there. Of course, I said before, they pull us out anyway. But everybody, they put us in the ground. Not me and my friend. I don't know, because we was low, we didn't smell too much of that smoke. But the other ones was working up higher on the ceiling, they was cementing. They got sick right away. So the doctor said right away, coffee, black coffee. And you see all the workers, they were laying in the grass, and they gave them by force to drink coffee. They told us, you've been working in there? They says, yes. And so they told us, you've been working in there? They says, yes. Were you all right? I says, you're not all right. I says, you better have some of this coffee. So we got some coffee, and nobody died. We didn't work that day. But I like to stop now. Can I for a minute?
It seems that the coffee houses must have been a very important place.
Those days, oh yes, very important. That's the only place where you go and meet your friends. Even today, they're very important. But the young generation, they don't go much to coffee house now. But the old time, they still go. There's still a few coffee houses. Before, it was every corner you find a coffee house. But now, they don't go. Well, after I worked, as I said before, there was a little town, about 10 miles, I think, I don't know exactly. It's the name of Green River. And they told us they pay a few cents more. It was 15, 17 cents an hour those days. So I left this job and I went down to Green River. And I got the job in Green River cleaning switches from the snow, wintertime. The switches, the railroad switches. But, sometimes it was plenty of snow. Oh, those days it was snow, not like today. And they had a special gang. They used to go clean up the switches. But it was too cold. And they told me there was another town farther down. The name is Laramie, Wyoming. And they told me that there was a mine there, coal mine, and you can make 50 cents an hour. Town is it's warmer. So I went there, but I didn't like the surroundings. So I went because they was telling that they was expecting that mine to collapse. So there was a few Greeks. They used to work there, and when we meet back, I went back to Green River. They told me, says, no, don't go. He says, you make good ideas. Says, you didn't work because says, they expect their mine to collapse. So one day, sure, the people, they start leaving the mine. And the superintendent, to encourage the workers, he took one day his family and he went to inspect the mine inside. And that was the day the mine collapsed. And even today, their mine is burning. Even today. That was what I'm talking about, it was 1915, and I went to same town on 57, and the mine was burning yet. Not much coal, was plenty coal, but I don't know, it collapsed.
I wanted to ask you, were you sending money home at this time?
No, after this, that was 1914, the First World War started. There was everything was black. Turkey was against us. You see, Turkey was with Germany, and we couldn't send no money, nothing. That's why I didn't send no money the First World War. After everything was settled, till we had the Second World War, oh yes, I sent. My mother died right away after I left. My mother, she lived but 2 months, too much. I was the only boy she had, and she left. I left, so she was worrying, and she was sick. She died. Well, then I quit. I didn't go back to Green River to clean the switches. I heard in Cheyenne, Wyoming, they wanted people to work in roundhouse when they clean up the engines, the railroad engines. And I went there, and I worked all the way in that inside, though. So then I quit, and I went back to Salt Lake City. And I got job in the same people that in the restaurant. And I had a friend of mine. I went a lot of different works, but I had a friend of mine, and he was coming east. And in Chester, Pennsylvania, I had brother-in-law. He had a pool room and grocery store, and many times he wrote me a letter to come up east. Well, I like down west. I meet people, I make friends, and I don't want to come. So this friend of mine, he wrote me a letter one day, and he says, George, you better come because your brother-in-law is very sick. He's dying. He's very sick. So he wants you to come up. So that was the First World War. Well, I got the train from Salt Lake City, and I came north. And when I got out in Chester, Pennsylvania, I see ambulance, I see nurses, and there was nothing in Utah, nothing in the West. There was the war, the First World War, and I see a couple French officers. There was the Liberty Drive those days for the Liberty Bonds, you see. And I went down the address that I had on the coffeehouse, and I find a sign in the door. We close account of sickness. So I said, I said, really, my brother-in-law must be very sick. So I was standing outside thinking where to go. And I heard two gentlemen, they go by, and they were speaking Greek. So I told him, I says, excuse me, I says, maybe you know where this gentleman lives. He says, that grocery store, that's his. Sure, I went across the street, and really, I find my... I thought I thought they were really sick, but they played a trick on me to bring me north. They told me that he's very sick. And when I see the sign that the store was closed, but those days, coffee houses, any gathering was closed. Dances, theaters was closed because, there was the Spanish flu was a sickness. Maybe, I don't know if I think you read that on the papers. There was Spanish flu. And then I stayed a couple of days, and I got a job in Sun Shipbuilding Company in Chester, in Edison, New Jersey, Edison, Pennsylvania. I worked there for a few months, 3-4 months, and one day I see two guys that was working in there, and no more, that is not a job for me. No more, that is not a job for me.
Were you married?
Oh, no, now I'm coming to this. Then I quit this job. There was another company, the Baldwin Locomotive Company. It used to build the locomotive trains. I went and got a job there. Then Chester and New Brunswick is not far. Chester, Pennsylvania, is about 100 miles, I think it is. So I find out through friends that my wife's family, they arrive in the States, they are in New Brunswick. And I want to come to New Brunswick and meet my friend, because my wife's two brothers, they was good friends of mine.
But she wasn't your wife yet?
No.
So you knew that this family that you knew...
From the other side. We brought up together. We were from the same village that I come. I know them from the other side. I know my wife from the other side, so...
Let me ask you a question. All these places that you were in, like Wyoming and Utah, I guess there weren't very many women around. It was really a man's sort of society.
No, there was women, but not Greek girls. There was a few Greek families. That's 60 years ago. There was only a few. I know this family. I told you I stayed for them for some time, and there was very few. There was men as it is today. And we was talking about my friends. We go someday and visit this family that I know. So one day, me and another friend of mine, we went to New Brunswick, and we met my wife and all that. So we know each other as is before. And then I went back to Chester, and then they had to move to New York. No, I moved to New York. I went to New York. And I was working in 104 Amsterdam Avenue. I don't know. I was an oysterman. club. There's a club there. I don't know the name. There was a nightclub, and I was working as an oysterman. And there was another friend of mine, and he went to the coffee house. At the same time, I didn't know, my wife's family moved in New York. And this friend of mine happened to know my wife's family to the coffee house, and he says, I work with somebody. He told my name, and this is his name. Well, he says, we know the guy. Tell him to come and meet us. He gave us the address. They give him their address, so I got the address, and I went. They used to live in 104 Park. Well, anyway, I forgot that name. I find the address anyway. I went, I met him, and he says, George says, we have a room in here. Could you come and live with us? So that's what I want. I wanted to live with them because, a bachelor all these years, I like to go with a family. And I know the mother, the father, brother, so I went there and stayed 4 or 5 months.
How old were you when you went to stay with them?
How old I was? Oh, about 20. But 4 years I was in Utah, about 20. So then they decided to move in Trenton, New Jersey, because they had a daughter married in Trenton. And they decided to go to Trenton. And they begged me to go with them. But at the same time, we started love with my wife. So I don't know what to do. I had a good job as an oysterman. And at the same time, I want to stay and go. So finally, they convinced me to go with them. My brother-in-law, he says, come with us, we'll be all right. So we went to Trenton, and we started work with my two brothers on the same Sloan Linoleum Company in Trenton, New Jersey. And we eat together. I used to sleep to them, live with them for 6-7 months. At the same time, my future mother-in-law told my cousin that they were thinking to fix up me and my wife. So my cousin told me, says, they're thinking to tell you to get married with Merope. Well, I says, okay. So anyway, we got married. We lived 59 years together. And I have a family of 6 children. 4 girls, 2 boys. They are all married. They all have family. They all getting along nice. And being that we got old and I couldn't work anymore, me and my wife, we decided to go to live in Florida. In 1964, we went to Florida, and we got a house. And we used to live there in Florida 7-8 months and come New Brunswick 3-4 months. And in 1968, my wife got sick and she died. And I'm a bachelor she died Christmas Day, December 25th, 1964. No. 6 years, 68. 1968, December 25th. Now I have a farm. I forgot to tell you. I have a little property, and I live with my big daughter. Her name is Katina. And I live with her, and I visit all my children. Sometimes come stay with this daughter. Sometimes I have a daughter lives in Trenton. I have a son. A daughter lives in. I have another daughter lives in Freehold. So that's how I pass my time now.
What was your main occupation? Did you have one main occupation after you got married?
Cook. I had a little restaurant, but I rented out since I have it in. Since 1958, I went to Greece with my wife. After I retired in 1958, I became 64, well anyway. So, and I went to Greece and I stay all summer. And when I come back, I still got that business. I have the store, but I rent it out. Now I'm not doing anything. I just have a little garden and I pass my time. But still, I have a trailer in Tarpon Springs, Florida. I own my own trailer, and every year I go there and spend my winter with other friends than I have down there. And the summertime I come back here and I have a little garden. That's how I pass my time.
Was it a Greek restaurant where you were a cook?
No, American restaurant. I have this store now I'm in now. I had it for 18 years. And I have other stores. But now this, the last restaurant I had, this one here, I sold it and I went to Greece.
When your children were growing up, did you try to teach them about Greece so that they would remember Greece? Did you try to teach your children about Greece?
Oh, yes.
How did you do that?
Well, how to teach them to learn Greek? Well, I was mixed up with our church, and we had a Greek teacher. And I quit the store where I was working 5 o'clock p.m. And the Greek school was from 2 to 5. I used to get the Greek teacher. I used to have a big farm 8 miles out of New Brunswick. Now the one I have is right in New Brunswick, close. But the big farm I had 105 acres of farm. That was in Monmouth Junction, New Jersey. And I used to get the teacher from the church, from the school, Greek school, after he was finishing teaching the Greek school, take him up on the farm 8 miles, teach my children Greek in 2 hours, have a nice supper, bring him back again to New Brunswick. That was going all winter time. Well, the school was open 3 times a week. And not only that, and we told them, the American language you're going to learn. May as well learn Greek, too, because in the future they're going to help, which helps them. Now, that's how they learn. Me and my wife, she couldn't speak the language, and that's why she was speaking the chin always Greek, and that's why all my children, they speak perfect Greek. Even my grandchildren, ask her, she speaks perfect Greek. And Merope, the same thing. All my daughters and my boys, they speak perfect Greek.
It must have been very important to you to pick the man up and drive him home every day.
I didn't hear you with that.
I said it must have been very important to you for them to learn Greek.
Yes, it is. They learn, of course, American first. But now the United States spends money and it needs people to speak foreign languages. Even this encouraged by the government. So why they should speak their own language? Of course, they can learn any language. In Chinese, any kind of language will help not only yourself, you help your country. Because nowadays we have missions all over the world. We send missions all over. They should speak their own language. But years ago they couldn't, but now they do. Now we have, from New Brunswick, we have about 10 girls and boys. They have good jobs in Athens, Greece, because they speak the Greek language. Not only that, even other towns, even here. Now, the other day, Merope, she got a new job. So they asked her, he says, you speak, there was 2 girls, they was looking for the same job. And when Merope applied for the job, they told her, well, it says, we have another girl, but it says, now, may as well see what you know and all that. So it says, you speak in the other language besides the Americans? They speak Greek. They hired her because they have Greeks. They could speak the language well. Some Europe speak them in Greek. So that's what it helps. Well, what else?
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
I know.
Well, the first immigrants, Greeks, Turks, Serbians, Hungarians, all over the Europe, we used to come here. We only had a few dollars in your pocket and you had health, you come here. And they're the ones who built America. Because 60 years ago, when I came here, America wasn't that. That's why many times I tell my family, this is not the real America. I see 2 Americans. When I came to America, it was America like used to be, not exactly like Europe, a little better than Europeans, but now is the America. Real America is now on Euro age, you know what I mean? Because they think America was like this 50, 60 years ago. It wasn't. I was working in California in the Western Pacific Railroad Company. There was a section, not a big section, only 8 workers. And we had a Japanese foreman. He was Japanese, they are short. But this guy was about 6, 7 feet high. I remember his name, Takashi Tashima. I won't forget his name. He's a wild man. And we was only 8 workers, and he was standing on top of us just like that. So you had to work, build the railroads. One time I was working on a sewer line. They used to put sewer lines, and there was 2 of us. They give us to build a tunnel. They was going to put 5-foot diameter pipe under the tunnel, and me and my other friend, we have to dig and make the tunnel under. So one side he was my friend, and the other side I was. Now we have to meet together, you see. And he was digging, but the foreman was Albanian. He says, what are you doing? Well, I says, we're working. But he went down and measured, and we passed each other sideways. We didn't meet together, see? Well, what do you expect? So he came down, he measured it. He says, you boys, you crazy, you went by. So we find out we was working alongside of each of us. So he says, see, he started to curse and doing, and we was young, we says uncle, you know, kids. He was, because big ones he can curse like he did to us. Well, I says, we didn't know. Well, and there was a trolley car. Those days there was trolley cars. And a trolley car had to go over this tunnel. And he put us out and put 2 Albanians under there. And sure thing, about an hour later, I don't know exactly how long later, a trolley car go by and it went over, and the opening was too high, and the trolley car went down and killed both of them. Excuse me, I gotta go again.